Rumours suggest it began with a detail so small it felt innocent. A platinum shimmer envelope pressed beneath Bruno Mars' hotel door just hours after he torched the Grammys with 24K magic. No return address, only a hand-drawn crescent moon and three typed words. Moon ritual. 3 a.m. The concierge swore a friend of Mr. Combs delivered it personally. Curiosity won. By 2:55 a.m, Bruno was whisking 16 floors up an exclusive midtown high-rise, elevator walls gleaming like liquid brass. The penthouse door opened onto a suite soaked in red gold light, curtains drawn against the city's neon heartbeat. There, Diddy floated forward in a silk smoking jacket, arms wide as if greeting a long-lost collaborator. Champagne waited on crushed ice pyramids, a vintage reel-to-reel spun lazy loops of an unfinished funk groove. "My man," Diddy purred, clinking glasses. "Let's change the frequency of pop forever." He spoke of a surprise joint EP, 3 crossover singles, Bruno in full creative command, Bad Boy footing every cost. For a moment it sounded like destiny. 2 hit machines colliding for a cosmic chart takeover. Then the producer's tempo shifted. He guided Bruno toward a frosted glass hallway, finger hovering over a biometric pad that sealed the studio door with a hush. "Phones stay here," he whispered, sliding Bruno's iPhone into a velvet sachet. "Energy doesn't like distractions." Inside, the lights dimmed to smouldering amber, the beat dropped to a barely audible pulse, and Diddy leaned closer, voice low enough to braid with the bass, suggesting that true alchemy starts only when ego is stripped down to the soul. Bruno felt the room tighten, possibilities tilting from legendary to unsettling. Yet one request was still to come, a proposal that would tilt the night from celebration into something far stranger. The moment that biometric pad beep-sealed behind them, Bruno sensed the air grow heavier, as if the ventilation itself were holding its breath. Red LEDs at floor level pulsed to the tempo of a down-tuned heartbeat, and every surface, from chrome mic stands to silk-draped monitors, seemed to shimmer with invitation. Rumours claim Diddy poured a second round of crystal, then produced 2 items from a mahogany keepsake box, a narrow silk blindfold and a silver pocket mirror no larger than a coaster. "First step of the moon ritual," he murmured. "Strip the layers, face the art without armour." Bruno's laugh came out thin. He suggested laying scratch vocals instead, throw up a quick hook, chase the magic their fans expected. Diddy smiled, but didn't move. The pocket mirror glinted between them like a dare. Reports from Bruno's later testimony say the mogul framed it as a rite of passage that every legend secretly completes. Sing one verse barefoot, eyes covered, mirror held to the chest so the first thing you feel is your own reflected heartbeat. According to the affidavit, he added a softer pitch. Legends give themselves fully, body, voice, everything. That vulnerability, it's the real stardust. Bruno set the blindfold on a console fader, stating he'd rather write chords than chase rituals. A hush swallowed the room. Diddy's tone cooled. He spoke of doors that open only once, of favours that turn debut weeks into historic runs. Then came the pivot Bruno later called the point of no return, a gentle request delivered like gospel. Shed the jacket, hold the mirror, let the camera roll just long enough to prove the fear is gone. Witnesses say Bruno answered with 4 measured words. "That's not my process." Silence. A soft click signalled the studio door still locked. For exactly 8 seconds, Bruno would count them later, neither man moved, the only sound a low synth drone trembling through subwoofers. Then, without raising his voice, Bruno asked Diddy to open the door. The producer's chin lifted, he tapped the keypad at last, eyes unreadable. Bruno exited into the hallway's cooler air, heart hammering, jacket still on, mirror untouched. He thought the boundary had held. Until 48 hours later, an unlisted audio file titled Bruno Times Diddy Ritual Mix surfaced on a private server he'd never even logged into. 2 dawns later, Bruno's manager burst into his hotel suite clutching a tablet. An encrypted Dropbox link, no sender, no subject, had just pinged every major A&R exec in town. Inside waited a 5-minute cut labelled Bruno times Diddy Ritual Mix. It opened with Bruno's unmistakable falsetto floating over a slow-burn funk groove, then slid into Diddy's breathy ad-libs. Moonlight, lose the fear, superstar. Smooth, seductive, and entirely fake, Bruno had never sung a single note that night. He forwarded the file to a forensic engineer who dug into the metadata. Timestamp, 3:14 a.m, barely 10 minutes after Bruno walked out. Recording location, a subfolder inside a secure bad boy server tagged /echovault/private sessions/. Even more chilling, the vocals had been pitch shifted from an old demo Bruno once tracked for a charity compilation. Someone had lifted his raw takes, stretched them into a new melody, and feathered in Diddy's whispers to make it sound like an after-hours duet. Bruno issued an immediate takedown notice. Bad Boy's reply came through a back-channel rep. Creative sparks fly faster than contracts. Let's meet and shape the rollout before chatter kills the magic. The carrot wasn't subtle. Festival headliner slots, a retro soul ad campaign, and a rumoured Super Bowl halftime nod. Bruno refused, and the weather changed. Within a week, a big-budget endorsement quietly reassessed timing. A film soundtrack he'd been circling went radio silent. One exec finally levelled with his team. Word upstairs is you're difficult. That's when Bruno realised a ghost duet could haunt him far beyond the charts. He hired cyber investigators to sweep every cloud directory for stray stems. They uncovered multiple remote logins from an IP block registered to Harlem Global Consulting, a shell entity that, according to SEC whispers, fronted digital ops for Diddy's holdings. Each login aligned with the leak's upload window. Screenshots, server paths, and checksum hashes went straight into a growing evidence folder Bruno labelled Moongate. Still, the strongest proof would arrive from a human source. Late one night, a session guitarist called Strings slid into Bruno's DMS with 6 words. I watched them build your duet. He promised a thumb drive, a ledger, and a story about candlelit recordings no artist ever consented to hear. And if Strings' drive is real, it could expose an entire archive of echo-laden tracks pieced together behind locked doors. Rumours suggest the meeting happened in the dim back corner of a rehearsal studio nobody rents before noon. Strings Calderon arrived carrying 2 items, a scuffed thumb drive and a spiral notebook so battered the cover curled like dried bark. He insisted Bruno's lawyer read the disclaimer page first. If this ever leaks, I was never here. Only then did he unravel what he called the Echo Vault. The notebook's columns matched studio timestamps to 2-letter initials and cryptic codes like BL, MIR, CB, shorthand Calderon explained as blindfold mirror, camera B. One entry dated the very night of Bruno's invite, BM, RITUAL, V10304, AM next to it, a checkmark under the heading Mirror Test Complete. Calderon swore these logs tracked every after-hours session where raw vocals were harvested, sometimes from warm-up scales, sometimes from whispered run-throughs, and stored for later chemistry engineering. Then came the thumb drive. Inside, folders replicated the log's shorthand, BMRITUAL, THBATHAMOON. Each held multi-track stems, isolated breaths, even a subfolder marked Visual Ref. Tiny ProRes snippets showing silhouetted guests singing beneath crimson lights. Calderon claimed the stems were stitched, pitch-bent, and layered with Diddy's own ad-libs to fabricate duets that could be dangled as leverage or surprise dropped for buzz. Metadata checks stunned Bruno's tech team. Creation paths listed /echovault/private sessions/ matching the leak that started the squeeze. File hashes aligned with Calderon's handwritten timecodes to the millisecond. A digital fingerprint impossible to fake without inside access. One stem even carried residual reverb identical to Bruno's charity demo booth, proof someone had lifted archived vocals and recast them in the ritual mix. Defense strategists might call the cache an unauthorized backup. Prosecutors saw a blueprint for systematic manipulation. Either way, the vault's existence shoved the narrative beyond rumor. Now subpoenas aimed not just at bad boy servers, but at any off-site node Calderon hinted about, a sun-drenched bunker he'd once glimpsed on a Bahamian remote desktop. The thumb drive cracked open one more breadcrumb, a string of IP pings that never touched US soil. They traced to Paradise Island, Bahamas, funneled through an innocuous shell called Harbour Light Holdings Lawantide. Corporate retreats and wellness, its website boasted, though Google Earth showed a single modernist compound ringed by mangroves and a private helipad. Bruno's team hired Aria Koenig, a white hat tracker infamous for hunting ransomware gangs. Within a day, she slipped them a heat map. Data surges between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. from a server rack labelled /echovault/offshore/, each spike stamped with the same hash prefix as Bruno's Phantom Duet. Blueprints. Koenig pulled from a leaked permit file sketched 3 soundproof listening lounges. Each door required dual-factor entry, thumbprints plus a sculpted moonstone token. Motion logs she scraped from the estate's smart home vendor revealed a pattern. 2 heat signatures enter, only 1 exit scan registers, the other never touches the pad. It matched Strings' ledger code, mirror test complete. Worse, satellite snapshots showed the compound lit up in soft crimson LEDs at those exact hours, a neon echo of Studio 9's ritual glow. Bruno's attorney fired an emergency request to Bahamian regulators. They hit a wall of diplomatic slow-walking. Harbour Light's papers were held by a Luxembourg trust fronted by a Delaware LLC, the ownership trail spiralling like a maze. Still, the pings kept pulsing nightly, taunting investigators. Koenig seeded a beacon file hidden inside a clone of Bruno's leaked stems. At 3:13 a.m. Eastern, the beacon lit, downloaded, unzipped and repackaged with a new tag, BM Serenade Alt Take. Proof: the island node wasn't archival, it was active, still slicing fresh edits. That single beacon woke federal cybercrime units, who drafted a sealed warrant to seize any offshore backups tied to US citizens. But jurisdiction is slow, digital erasure is fast. And rumour now whispers that Harbour Light's IT chief, recently fired over policy breaches, is willing to decrypt the full island drive if granted whistleblower immunity. The fired IT chief, codenamed Rafe, arrived at dawn with an encrypted SSD no larger than a hotel keycard. He'd copied it the night security marched him off Paradise Island, slipping it into his shoe because legends shouldn't be edited into compliance. In exchange for whistleblower immunity, Raff previewed a single thumbnail. 2 silhouettes framed in blood-red LEDs, timecode 030507 AM. 1 figure's profile. Bruno's quiff and mic stance were impossible to mistake. Prosecutors hustled the drive into a clean room lab, only to find every file locked inside Diddy's proprietary V-Vision codec, lossless, 8K, and completely unreadable without a matching decryption key rumoured to sit on a lone hardware dongle in Harbour Light's server closet. For 12 tense hours, digital forensics hammered at the cipher. Nothing budged. Just when techs considered brute force shredding the hash, risking total corruption, Koenig noticed a pattern in the file headers. 3 repeating hex pairs that mirrored the beacon tag she'd seeded days earlier. She patched in the beacon algorithm, crossed her fingers, and hit run. At 2:14 a.m, the lab lights dimmed as the first frame rendered. Bruno seated on a velvet stool, headphones half on, humming a skeletal melody. Behind him, Diddy paced slow arcs, murmuring, "Feel the tremor, superstar." Then came the hinge moment. Bruno lifted the blindfold off the console, shook his head and said, "Let's write, not worship." Diddy's reply faded under sub-bass, but the body language was stark. Hand on Bruno's shoulder, then trailing toward his waist. Bruno stood, voice low but firm. "Door. Now." A mechanical chime answered, access denied. That stalemate lasted exactly 11 seconds. You could count each heartbeat in the room's engineered rainfall hush. Finally, Diddy tapped the keypad, lips tight. The latch clicked green. The clip froze there. No threat, no violence, yet unmistakable leverage hanging in the silence. Hash values, timestamps, and Koenig's beacon all aligned within 9 decimal points, sealing authenticity. Defense counsel called it digital fan fiction. The judge ordered it admitted, pending jury review at full resolution. Outside, word of the Oracle clip detonated across socials. Thus, Moon Ritual trended within minutes. Sponsors quietly paused campaigns, and every artist who'd ever surrendered a phone at a late-night session felt a collective chill. But a single clip, no matter how vivid, still needs corroboration, and the next witness, flown in under sealed subpoena, claims she lived the ritual too. Her testimony could transform one chilling video into an undeniable pattern. Courtroom buzz spiked when the marshal announced a sealed witness. A petite figure in an oversized trench coat stepped forward, midnight sunglasses hiding eyes the world's playlists know by heart. To preserve her safety, she would be referred to only as A under oath. A described a 2022 gala where Diddy praised her nebula falsetto and invited her to a seaside resonance lab. Address provided just hours before Wheels Up. The jet landed on Paradise Island. At dusk, a concierge collected her phone, slid it into the same velvet pouch Bruno had mentioned, and guided her to Listening Lounge A, biometric pad glowing lunar blue. Inside, candles flickered against obsidian walls while an unreleased beat throbbed like a low tide. Diddy spoke of surrendering ego and produced a silk blindfold plus a mirror, props A now recognised in Bruno's Oracle clip. He suggested singing barefoot while he filmed for alignment. She declined. His smile cooled. An assistant materialised with a diamond-studded bracelet and an NDA thick as a novella. She caught the next dawn flight home. 3 weeks later, a lost duet leaked to niche blogs, A's airy hooks interlaced with Diddy's whispers. Metadata, same Echo Vault path, identical hash prefix, screenshots of Diddy texting, magic dies without surrender, flashed on the courtroom monitor. Timestamps overlapped Bruno's clip within 60 seconds. A finished softly. The rain noise you all heard. That's the room. I felt it the moment the video played. Defense objected. Coincidence, creative myth, but the jury had now seen 2 artists, 2 identical rituals, 1 digital fingerprint. Outside, headlines morphed from Bruno versus Diddy to industry reckoning. Inside, prosecutors closed their binder with a quiet confidence. The pattern was no longer rumour, it was rhythm, looping on repeat. Court has recessed for deliberations, but the building still trembles with aftershocks. In the jury room, 12 strangers sought through a labyrinth of timestamps, beacon hashes, and whispered invitations that now read less like coincidence and more like sheet music for manipulation. One spreadsheet tallies Bruno's blocked endorsements against the leak's upload dates. Another overlays Witness X's island timestamps atop the Oracle clip's heat map. If even a handful of those cells align, Diddy's decades-long mystique could flip overnight, from architect of all night anthems to curator of locked door leverage. Outside, every label exec with a late-night vibe suite on retainer feels the temperature drop. Streaming services quietly delay splash page banners. Brand managers draft contingency memos. A single push notification from the clerk's office could redraw contracts, tour insurance, maybe even Grammy nom rules about ethical collaboration. Artists trade frantic texts. Who still owns your stems? Did you ever sign an NDA in crimson light? For the first time in ages, backing vocals feel heavier than diamond plaques. Reporters camp at the courthouse steps, refreshing their feeds for the first hint of a verdict, but the bigger equation has already shifted. Fans dissect Oracle still frames like forensic sleuths. Young Echo Vault eclipses album drop chatter, and younger musicians publicly demand transparent session policies before stepping into any studio after midnight. No matter how the jury rules, one truth stands louder than sub-bass. A locked door and a hush contract can't mute a century-grade data trail. Power, consent, and creativity must now share the same spotlight, no matter who owns the master recordings. So, as we wait for that slip of paper to emerge and the foreperson to clear their throat, ask yourself, when the tracks you love are born in darkness, can they keep shining once the door finally swings open? Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.